You send a simple message to a coworker, you type, sounds good, and you just hit send. You go about your day, maybe grab a coffee, and you wait a few minutes, and then the reply comes back.
Right.
And it just says, okay, period. No exclamation mark, no, smiley face emoji.
Yeah.
Just 2 letters and a harsh, definitive little dot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is the most ordinary digital interaction in the world. And yet, for so many of us, that tiny little dot is a total tripwire.
Instantly, your stomach just drops. You start thinking, are they mad at me? Did I do something wrong in that meeting yesterday? Wait, did I sound arrogant?
Yeah, the spiral starts.
Exactly. You go straight to, everyone in the office probably hates me, I'm going to get fired. It's just 2 letters and a dot, but suddenly you are completely spiraling. And well, that is exactly what we are tackling today. We are pulling directly from our sources on how overthinking is a trap. And our mission for you today is to really extract the exact psychological tools you need to escape that specific mental maze.
It's a deeply relatable topic.
Yeah.
And, I think it's important to mention that as we navigate this deep dive, we're intentionally keeping our pacing deliberate and our vocabulary accessible.
Right. Absolutely.
If you are an English learner who wants to grasp these complex psychological concepts, we are breaking down the exact phrases and frameworks you can use to articulate that intense pressure that builds up when your brain just, goes into overdrive.
Okay, let's unpack this. We want to bypass the overly difficult jargon, but we also aren't going to water down the science. We're going to figure out how to short-circuit this panic. So let's start right inside that mental storm.
A great place to start.
Because our sources give us incredibly vivid examples of these everyday triggers. Like we said, it's the colleague replying without an emoji, or maybe it's a friend whose gaze shifts slightly away from you during a conversation.
Just a tiny shift.
Yeah, just a subtle movement of their eyes, and your brain instantly launches into disaster mode, and it basically ruins your entire night.
And the wild part is you might be physically safe.
Yeah.
Right? Just sitting quietly on your couch. But biologically and mentally, you are fighting for your life.
Wow, really?
Yeah, your body is reacting as if a literal predator has just stepped into the room.
That is wild. The sources actually highlight a fantastic English phrase to describe this sensation. The phrase is, I am stuck in my own head.
That's a very common one, yeah.
I just love how spatial that phrase is. It perfectly captures that claustrophobic feeling where the real world around you kind of blurs out and the only reality you experience is the echoing chamber of your own anxieties.
It's very isolating.
It really is. Another great phrase the text uses is, I am overanalyzing everything.
And that's exactly what it feels like, right? It's a hyper-focus on details that simply don't warrant that level of scrutiny.
Yeah.
You're zooming in so closely on a single pixel that you completely lose sight of the entire picture.
Exactly. When I think about overthinking, it reminds me of a smoke detector that is wired just way too sensitively.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right, because a smoke detector's only job is to warn you of danger. But if it's too sensitive, it can't tell the difference between you just burning a piece of toast, which is like receiving a slightly dry text message, and the entire house actually being on fire.
Right. It doesn't know the difference.
It just floods the whole house with deafening alarm bells anyway.
What's fascinating here is the evolutionary psychology behind that overly sensitive smoke detector. I mean, it feels like self-sabotage to ruin your own evening over a text message.
Yeah.
But your brain's actual intention is to protect you.
Wait, protect me by ruining my night.
Well, yes. The human brain is essentially an ancient survival machine. Think about it. Tens of thousands of years ago, if you noticed a subtle shift in your environment, like a rustling bush, or maybe a fellow tribe member glaring at you, ignoring it could literally mean death. You had to analyze it.
So our brains are literally wired to assume the worst because the early humans who assumed the worst, well, they survived to pass on their genes.
Precisely. The brain seeks safety by identifying ambiguity and immediately treating it as a threat. But in our modern social world, where threats are rarely fatal and communication is, let's face it, highly ambiguous, this ancient mechanism backfires. Your brain ends up creating massive existential crises out of completely mundane social interactions.
That makes the 2 psychological terms our text introduces incredibly relevant. The first one is analysis paralysis.
Right. Analysis paralysis is what happens when that smoke detector just won't shut off. You generate so many what-if scenarios, so many branching paths of potential disaster that your cognitive load just maxes out.
You just overload the system.
Exactly. You become completely unable to make a decision. You can't even decide how to reply to the text or like what to eat for dinner. You just freeze.
And the second term is rumination. And the text points out that this word literally comes from what a cow does when it eats, which is so weird, but accurate.
It is a bit gross, but very accurate.
Yeah. A cow chews its food, swallows it, and then physically brings it back up to chew it again as cud. It's a continuous, repetitive loop.
It's a very visceral image, but it applies perfectly to human psychology. Rumination is the act of repeatedly chewing on painful, distressing thoughts.
Yes.
You swallow the memory of an awkward social interaction, but then, 2 hours later, your brain regurgitates it so you can chew on it again. You keep grinding down the same distressing idea, and this repetitive mental chewing traps you in a downward spiral.
Which feels awful, but knowing this mechanism brings up a massive question for me.
Okay, but what's that?
If our brain is doing this automatically to protect us, like if it's an ancient survival instinct, how do we actually stop the alarm bells once they start?
Well, the secret is that you cannot command your brain to stop.
You can't, no.
If I tell you right now, do not think about a white bear, what happens?
I am instantly picturing a white bear.
Exactly. Your brain instantly summons it. We don't process negative commands well, especially under stress. So the goal isn't to stop the thoughts. The goal is to change the direction of the thoughts.
Okay, change direction.
The sources point out that we have to move out of the trap of asking why and step into the clarity of asking what.
The trap of why. Oh man, I think anyone who has ever stared at the ceiling at 2 a.m. knows exactly what that means.
Oh, for sure.
You lie there thinking, why did they treat me like this? Why didn't they smile? Why do I always mess things up?
Those questions are the absolute deepest part of the overthinking maze. Asking why about other people's motives or asking why about sweeping, unchangeable aspects of your own character, it's just a bottomless pit.
Because you can't ever really know, right?
Exactly. You are essentially guessing. There is no factual answer to why did my coworker just say, okay. You could guess forever and never reach a verifiable truth.
Asking why kind of feels like putting yourself on trial in a courtroom. But like you are playing the role of the defendant, the judge, and the ruthless prosecutor all at once.
That's a great way to put it.
And worse, there's no actual evidence. It's just a kangaroo court built entirely out of your own insecurities.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. You are cross-examining yourself based on fandoms.
So the text tells us to, quote, shift from why to what. And I guess to build on that courtroom analogy, shifting to what is like leaving that chaotic courtroom and walking into a calm scientist's lab.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, in the lab, you don't deal with guesses or assumptions. You only deal with observable, measurable data. The phrase our sources emphasize here is separate facts from feelings.
Yes, exactly. You are deliberately moving toward a much more action-oriented mindset.
But I have to push back here a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
It sounds perfectly logical right now while we are sitting here calm. Separate facts from feelings, sure. But when the smoke detector is blaring, when my stomach has dropped and my heart is literally racing, walking into that calm scientist's lab feels basically impossible.
It does.
How do we actually distinguish the facts from the feelings when our own brain is screaming at us that the danger is real?
That is the ultimate challenge. It is incredibly difficult in the moment. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the inability to separate facts from feelings usually comes down to one core psychological desire.
Which is?
Control.
Control.
Yes. When we ask why, we are secretly trying to control other people. If we can just figure out why they did something, we feel like we can control the outcome.
Yeah.
To distinguish fact from feeling, we have to recognize that illusion of control and surrender it.
Okay, so a fact would be the literal reality of the situation, whereas the feeling is the narrative we've attached to it in an attempt to, maintain control.
Exactly. So we start asking what questions we ask. What is actually happening right now, which is the fact, versus what am I guessing, which is the thought.
Okay, let's apply that to the text message.
Right. In our scenario, the fact is simply, my colleague replied with the letters O and K. That is the only observable data in the lab. The thought is, my colleague is angry with me and I'm going to be fired. It's just a guess.
Okay, so you identify the actual data, and then what?
Then you ask the ultimate action-oriented question. What can I do right now to make myself more comfortable? You reclaim your agency.
Oh, I see.
You stop trying to solve the unsolvable mystery of your coworker's mind, and you take active steps in your present reality. Maybe what I can do right now is simply close my laptop, stretch my legs, and go get a glass of water.
I really appreciate the mechanics of that shift. It moves you from passive victimhood to active engagement.
It really does.
I do think there is a glaring flaw in relying entirely on this logic-based strategy.
Which is?
Sometimes the brain is simply too overloaded. You hit a point where the anxiety isn't just a mental exercise anymore, right? It is entirely physiological.
Oh, absolutely.
Your chest gets tight, your breathing becomes shallow, your palms sweat. I mean, you absolutely cannot sit there with a notepad parsing out facts from feelings because your prefrontal cortex, like the logical part of your brain, has essentially gone completely offline.
You are entirely correct. There is a biological threshold where cognitive strategies just fail. When your amygdala, which is the brain's threat detection center, hijacks your nervous system, it literally reroutes blood flow away from the logical centers of your brain.
Wow, literally reroutes it.
Yes. You cannot think your way out of a thought loop when the machinery required for rational thought is temporarily powered down.
Right. So what do we actually do when logic completely fails?
Well, when the engine is running that hot, you have to bypass the brain entirely. You have to use your physical body and your immediate environment to hit the brakes. This brings us to a classic, highly effective psychological counseling tool highlighted in our sources, the grounding technique.
Grounding. It literally sounds like taking a live electrical wire that is sparking out of control and just burying it in the earth to absorb the shock.
That is the exact principle. The purpose of a grounding technique is to take all that frantic, overloaded energy spinning around in your mind and forcefully pull it down into your physical body.
Our notes give us two really excellent English phrases that function as the initial mental breaks for this process. The first is, "My thoughts are just thoughts. They are not facts."
That is such a powerful mantra.
It really is. And the second one is, "Get out of your head and into your body."
They serve as the transition point. You are acknowledging the mental storm and then intentionally choosing to step out of the rain.
I look at this grounding technique kind of like doing a hard reboot on a frozen computer.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, when your laptop completely locks up, the screen freezes, the mouse won't move, and the fan is spinning incredibly loud, you can't fix it by furiously typing more commands on the keyboard.
Right, the software is jammed.
Exactly. You have to reach out, press the physical power button, hold it down for 5 seconds, and force the machine to restart at the hardware level. That is what grounding does. It uses the hardware of your body to reboot the software of your mind.
A very accurate metaphor. And the specific hardware reboot our sources detail is the 5-4-3-2-1 sensory countdown.
Ah, I've heard of this.
It relies on sensory awareness. By systematically forcing your brain to process intense, real-world sensory data, you basically force the blood flow to return to the logical centers of your brain. You are signaling to your nervous system that you are not actually in physical danger.
Let's walk through the mechanics of this. How does it work for our listeners?
Okay, so when you feel that physiological panic taking over, you stop right where you are, you look around, and you start with 5 visual things.
Yeah.
And the crucial rule here is no judgment.
What do you mean, no judgment?
I mean, you don't evaluate the objects, you don't think about whether they need dusting, or if you like them, you just name them to force your eyes outward.
Oh, okay.
For example, looking around my space right now, I see a desk lamp, I see the black and gold logo of a microphone, I see the complex folds of a curtain over by the window, I see a ceramic coffee cup, I see a blue pen.
That immediately breaks the internal stare. You are just logging external data.
Exactly. Then you shift to 4 touch things. This targets the tactile receptors in your skin, which are incredibly grounding. You focus heavily on the physical sensation.
So feeling things around you.
Yes. You notice the firm support of the chair against your back. You feel the cold, solid wood of the floor under your bare feet. You touch the soft, woven texture of a blanket, or even just the fabric of your own shirt. You wrap your hands around the warmth of a mug. You are proving to your body that it exists in a physical, stable space.
Okay, so we have 5 things we see, 4 things we physically feel,
Yeah.
then we move to hearing, right?
Yes, 3 hear things. And it often helps to close your eyes for this step to heighten your auditory awareness. You listen past the noise of your own pulse.
What kind of things are we listening for?
Well, you might hear the distant rhythmic sound of rain hitting the glass outside. You might hear the low mechanical hum of a dehumidifier running in the corner. Or you might isolate a specific instrument and the quiet lo-fi music playing in your headphones.
Wow. By doing this, you are reminding your brain that the external world is continuing on calmly, completely unaware of your internal crisis. I mean, the world hasn't stopped, even if it felt like it did.
That realization alone often triggers a deep, stabilizing breath.
Okay, what's next?
Next, we engage the olfactory system with two smell things.
Smells.
Yeah, the olfactory bulb have a direct line to the brain's emotional centers, which makes scent really powerful for grounding. It could be subtle like the faint smell of fresh laundry detergent on your clothes, or perhaps the sharp, clean scent of essential oils sitting on your desk.
Okay, and finally, the hard reboot finishes with one.
One taste thing. This is the final anchor, and it directly stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest mode that counters your fight or flight panic.
So what do you do?
You take a sip of warm water, or maybe pop a mint in your mouth, but you don't just consume it. You actively trace the sensation. You feel the temperature of the water flowing down your throat.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See, touch, hear, smell, taste. You systematically move through every single input your body has. It is such a simple checklist, but the biological impact is profound. You are literally manually overriding the alarm system.
This raises an important question, though.
Yeah.
We've talked about the biology, but philosophically, why does focusing on the texture of your shirt or a sip of water actually cure a complex social anxiety?
Yeah, why does it?
It works because it forces you into a state of release. As we discussed earlier, overthinking is a desperate attempt to cling to the illusion of control. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method strips that away.
Oh, wow.
It forces you to let go of tomorrow, let go of what your coworker meant, and accept absolutely nothing except what is verifiable in this exact present second.
Release. That is the core of it all, isn't it? You are basically dropping the rope in a tug of war with your own mind. And our sources provide a beautiful healing affirmation to close out the exercise.
Yes, they do.
Once the countdown is finished and the blood flow has normalized, you take a deep breath and you say out loud, I am here, I am safe. I release the need to control everything.
I am here, I am safe, I release the need to control everything. It is a really profound realization. Letting go of control, acknowledging that you cannot predict the future, it actually makes you feel significantly safer than overanalyzing ever could.
So what does this all mean? Let's trace the path we've taken through the mind today. We started by recognizing that our brains are ancient survival machines, and sometimes they just misfire, turning a completely harmless text message into an existential threat.
Right.
This leads to that claustrophobic feeling of being stuck in your own head, fueled by rumination and analysis paralysis.
And we learned that you cannot just command the panic to stop.
Right. To escape the maze, you have to shift your mindset from asking the unanswerable, exhausting why, that mental courtroom where you are always guilty, to asking the observable, action-oriented what. You separate the absolute facts from the anxious feelings. And when the smoke detector is just too loud and logic completely fails, you stop trying to think your way out. You use the hardware of your body. You employ the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 sensory grounding technique to pull blood flow back to your prefrontal cortex, bringing yourself back to reality so you can finally release control.
It is a really comprehensive toolkit. You have the cognitive strategy for when you could think clearly, and the physiological strategy for when you can't.
It really is. And it's so empowering to know you have these tools at your disposal the next time you feel the panic rising. As we wrap up this deep dive into the trap of overthinking, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to ponder on your own.
Yes.
We've spent a lot of time today discussing how overthinking is just our brain's misguided, exhausting attempt to perfectly predict the future so we can stay safe from the unknown.
But consider this dynamic. What would happen if we fundamentally changed our relationship with the unknown?
What do you mean?
What if we started treating uncertainty not as a terrifying threat that needs to be constantly analyzed and mitigated, but simply as a blank canvas? Because, if you really think about it, the unknown isn't just where the monsters live. The unknown is actually the only place where unexpected, wonderful, and joyful things can happen too.
A blank canvas instead of a threat. I absolutely love that reframing. Definitely think about that the next time you get a message with just a period. Thank you so much for exploring these concepts with us today. We'll be right here waiting to dive into the next topic with you soon.